empty. The action interact that from the giver and receiver are all empty. So with these understanding is the highest intention. So actually these intention is we can also apply in every perfections. Okay, I'm saying perfection here. In order to be our generosity become perfection paramita, we have to have to do based on motivation of those it's called non-conceptual something. So if we won't be able to give with that intention. Okay, it's still generosity, but it's not perfection generosity. So therefore, somehow we have to, have to do with this. But still, as I always try to say is that the teaching of the Buddha have a benefit in many different levels. If you have only the ordinary or inferior intention, it still get some sort of benefit. If you are somebody who always give to others, who always help the people who are having a difficulty in the problem, even if your intention it's impure, which means if I give this, if I do this, I'll be more famous, respected in those. But it's still, if you are going through that kind of difficulties, I guarantee there will be somebody help you. So that's when we look at very basic ordinary level. And then of course, if you are somebody who hoping for becoming wealthier, richer for the future life, and the rest of your life, you also have to offer and do generous, because we as a Buddhist believe karma. So if every single thing that you do have the result. If you create anything, sooner or later that cause will produce a result. So if you are producing cause of giving, helping other people, somehow you will get the return, So then when we think about the next life, if you're always generous person, thinking about all the sentient beings, and you will be born in a very good, human being with, everything you have. And then if you have all this perfectional intention, it's the only way to achieve enlightenment. And also, like if you look in a very present level, if you learn, if you train in generosity, So when we Buddhas talk about there is a compassion and wisdom, that always goes together. So generosity, it's the action of giving combined with the compassion, but of course it requires always the wisdom that tells you what is your limit, what is the right direction, what is the measuring that tells you for your generosity and based on your ability. Because otherwise, if you don't have that wisdom, you give everything you have, and then one day you have to go to you have no home, you have no food to eat. So we have to have a wisdom that tells us what is our ability, and based on our ability we have to serve sentient beings. So basically when you learn generosity, it reduces our anger. I mean, it reduces our desire. We as a human being, we always have a hope and fears, right? So fears of losing what we have and hope of getting what we don't have. It doesn't matter how much you already have it, we always want, But practice on generosity is to reduce that craving or desire, attachment that we have. Well, the desire means it's not only desire to somebody who you love or anything, It can be object of any sense that we have, 5 senses. When it appears as a good, it increases our desire. When it appears as a bad, increases our hatred and anger. It appears as a neutral, it create our ignorance. So
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You were saying that generosity is the antidote to attachment.
Yes.
And that makes sense when we're talking about objects. But I'm actually very attached to people,
Mm-hmm.
my family,
Mm-hmm.
my children. How can generosity help me to break that attachment to my children?
Somehow we have, if you have attached to certain people,
Yes.
only certain people that you love, people that are close to you, it's attachment. But what we have to do is somehow we have to extend that to every sentient beings. So that actually your attachment, it's not a limited attachment that to only certain people, but it becomes a compassion, It becomes a limitless compassion. So, as much as you care about your loved ones, your friend, family, and you want them to be happy, you want them to be suffering, because every sentient being wants the same thing and don't want the same thing. So therefore, you extend that, motivation to all sentient beings.
But is that not more than generosity?
Huh?
That practice, is it not more than generosity?
Well, generosity is actually very vast, It's when we talk about the 6 perfections, this is one way of explaining the things. Introducing how our negative emotions are arising and how we should apply their antidotes. But within the generosity, there are 6 perfections, So when you do generosity, you have to have a generosity of discipline, generosity of patience, generosity of diligence, generosity of concentration, generosity of wisdom.
Okay, thank you.
So the first one is generosity of material, right? We give things to other people when they need. Give food, give clothes, give shelter. That's one thing. And then another one is giving protection. Protection means, prevent from disease, prevent from, giving medicine, helping from the dangers, and all those are giving protection, saving life. Giving one thing is the one, and then you are saving, you are providing to save her place and save her life. And then the next one, a third generosity is teaching. So teaching the Dharma, when you give teaching to other people, that's the one part of the generosity. So of course then generosity, when we talk about the generosity, giving things, in order to be the generosity that can count as a practice, of course you have to give something that benefit, something that helps. You can give actually two different things. You can give food or poison, If you give a food, it benefit, but if you give a poison, then it's not good. So you cannot say, oh, I'm giving lots of poison to everybody in order to practice my generosity. No. So when we give a generosity of Dharma teaching, and also we have to, think carefully. You cannot just walk in the street and talking about Dharma, and I'm giving Dharma to everybody. You cannot walk on the street yelling everybody, saying that you need to practice the Dharma, you need to practice six perfection, otherwise you will be born in hell. If you practice the generosity, you will be rich next life. If you want to achieve enlightenment, you need to practice this, that. Then people think you're crazy. It's not really generosity, So when you give Dharma teaching, you have to give to somebody who, appreciate and who know what is the Dharma. Not just, throwing everywhere. And then, of course, out of your intention should be very pure, So everything, in order to be six perfections, again, the motivation is very important, So we do all kinds of Dharma activities. We listen to Dharma and we give teachings, we chant. But intention is something that we always have to aware, analyzed whether it's a proper intention. Because when you give Dharma, your motivation is purely, your intention should be pure, that this teaching will, benefit, in order to benefit people who are receiving, not only to increase your, fame or collect more disciples or, get more money. And if you're doing these things, then it's incorrect intention. So that's why intention should be pure, and as well as when you practice the Dharma, it should be, in order to free from samsara, in order to free from suffering, I'm going to do such and such Dharma practice. If I do practice the Dharma, I want to be rich or I want to be famous, then it all becomes again wrong intention that pollute our practice. So it won't become our perfection. Generosity or perfection practice, Mahayana practice. So the result of practice, the generosity, have two different levels. Ultimate point of view, the result of the generosity is achieving enlightenment as every practice. And the temporary result for practice on generosity is free from poverty, free from hunger, free from thirsty. Those would be the temporary result, short-term result of the practice of generosity. So next one is discipline, moral discipline. And it says, even if you have understanding and practice on generosity well, if you don't have a discipline, everything will fall apart. So your practice will not be the proper path to enlightenment. So therefore, discipline is very important. Those who don't have a discipline, who will not meet right dharma, will not meet right teacher. Well, of course, the discipline is something that every level, and either it's spiritual or not spiritual, we have to have somehow discipline, right? In our mundane life, we have to have our own discipline. There are things that we are supposed to do, and things that we are supposed to say, things that we are supposed to think, and there are things that we are not supposed to do and not supposed to say, and we have to follow this. If we don't follow all those things, we become bad people, we become criminal, we become thief, So we have to follow all these rules and the regulations. And then, of course, in spiritual practice, this is something that, path of liberation, enlightenment, we have to follow, we have to keep our disciplines, according to Vinaya, there are different levels, like a monastic discipline and also lay precepts discipline. There are 7 different levels. So whatever you have taken, you have to follow and you have to keep them. It says the discipline is the foundation of all the practices, all the qualities. Once you have a good foundation, then everything you build on this would be very stable, solid. But if you don't have this good foundation, and even if you build a really nice things, it will fall down. So in order to practice the Dharma, whatever level of a vow or precept you have to have, good condition. And after that, whatever practice you do, flourish, benefit. It says it's the discipline is like a ground, When you have a nice ground, then whatever you plant, everything will grow. If you don't have a nice ground, no matter what you put, nothing grows. So those who are in the discipline, the meditation also increases, arise your realization. It's like the full moon, like the moon increases. Once you have a good discipline, everything, all the meritorious activities grow like that. So in Vinaya, we have 7 vows. The full ordained monk and nun, and then Getsu is actually one step lower than the full half, maybe called half ordained monk and nun. You know, Gelong Pamani, Getul Pamani, Geni Pamani. Geni means lay precepts, male and female. So those 6, and then female have something called Gelugma, which means they have between the lay precepts and half ordained, they have a 2 years trial, you know, a vow that they need to take. So the total, there are seven different vows.
What are the vows for the half ordained nun?
Half ordained nun.
The half.
Well, it's a, you know, same like when we do a nyungne, you know. Yeah, sojong. There's a sojong. There's 10 things that you're not supposed to do, right? So when we take a sojong vow, it's just for 1 day vow. But when you take that as a whole lifetime, then it's, you know, half nun or half monks. Yes, yeah.
Alright, I'm a lay person forever.
So the result of the practice on discipline, of course, it's the second paramita out of 6. So if we practice on discipline with, you know, the perfection intention, you know, with the kursum mimikpa means person and action and object understanding, all those 3 are non-existent. Based on if you practice discipline, it becomes cause of achieving enlightenment. So in a temporary result of a discipline is I don't know how to translate this. Means you have, you know, basically you have no problem. You would have everything that you need or everything that you want for this present life or next life. So, and lots of things that we can, you know, apply, like generosity and discipline, all those have a same intention. And then, of course, when we talk about the discipline, you have to have a generosity of discipline. You have to have a discipline of generosity, discipline of discipline, discipline of a patient, you know, all these are required. A discipline of wisdom and concentration. So next one is patient. Patient? Patience. Okay. Patience. So Shanti Deva says, no evil like anger, no virtue like patience. Meaning that the patience is one of the most important practice. And it says, who was it? I think it's Shanti Deva. Again, he says, if you don't have the patient, you know, patient is it's antidote to the anger, right? So if you don't have the patience that destroy or remove your anger, anger would destroy everything. It says even if you have a practice years and years, but one anger can destroy it. So that's why the patience, it's a very important aspect of Mahayana teaching. It says, if you don't have patience, when your anger arises, it will destroy your generosity and your discipline and everything. So therefore, it is important to practice on a patience. So patience has also three different aspects. Being able to patient for or when you are facing too difficult situation, you know, when people are telling bad things about you, or that's one thing. And then another level of a patient is being patient to you know, like when you face into difficult situations, you're being patient, you know. Sometimes when we do things, it's very difficult, and if you don't have a patience, we give up easily. So the first one is when other people, has to come from other people. When they're telling you or doing bad things to you, you're being patient, you know. So the second one is being patient for patience to practice the Dharma, you know. So when we do practice the Dharma, it's not really easy, because it requires so much practices. If you don't have practice on patience, we will lose the diligence. We give up easily, you know. So that's why the patience is very important. And also same way that we have to, you know, have this pure intention. That we can have an ordinary intention that can, you know, when you're being patient for something, or when you know, you're being patient to your neighbors. You know, when they do something to you and you be patient, the next time when you wanted to do something, and they will understand, you know, those kind of situations are the ordinary level. And then of course, if you're being patient, and then the result is your next life, you will be born a beautiful or handsome person. And then of course the ultimate result of being patient is to achieve enlightenment. So next one is a diligent. And again, it's the same thing. Diligent is something that is required for every activity that we do. Not only practice the Dharma, but whatever aim we have. You know, in order to achieve whatever you look for, we have to have a diligent. We have to have a commitment, and we have to have willpower. You know, that until you achieve whatever you are looking for, and you are, you know, determined to go through whatever difficulties that you have to go through, and whatever you have to face, you are ready. The effort is antidote to our laziness, you know. And usually the lazy have three different lazies. In So first lazy is you just want to sleep, you know, like a pig. You don't want to do anything, you know. Always lie down, always, you know, that kind of lazy. And then second lazy, it's we call it in Tibetan jilu, means that you know, for example, in order to practice the Dharma and achieve enlightenment is our ultimate hope and ultimate aim, and then you think, oh, me, I am just an ordinary person, full of anger, full of jealousy, full of attachment, you know, no education. There's no way that I can achieve enlightenment. So that, I'm sure you have a word for that. It's you know, low self-esteem, something like that. Is there other word? Like, you know, you don't see good in yourself so much, you know. You don't see the abilities, you don't see the qualities that you have, you know. So you know, I am always poor, I'm always stupid, and I cannot do this, or, you know, that kind of idea. It's a jilog gain chimlelo. So this discipline have also three different type of. It's not really type, but you know, three different ways of explaining, or three different levels. The first one is kocha, means armor. You know, diligent like armor. You know, you're ready to do. Doesn't matter whatever comes along, you know, you have ready to face, ready to challenge all those. So these diligent is of course more like your commitment, your intention. You know, I wanted to do no matter what I have to do, and until I reach that, you know, until I reach enlightenment, no matter what I have to go through, no matter what I have to face, so I am ready to do all those. And then the second one is Jora presence of So Jora Prism Sopa means accomplish, not accomplish. It's something to do with the action, you know, actual diligent for practice the Dharma, diligent of benefiting sentient beings, diligent to removing your negativities. Negative emotions. Actually, the essence of a diligent in Buddhism, it says joy, you know. That's something that's very important, because diligent is everybody have a diligent one way or another, and also for practice we do have a lot of diligent, but diligent with joy, it makes the diligent is the diligent of the paramita, you know. For example, if you have a commit, if you promise your guru that you will finish your 100,000 prostration in next 3 months, but then when you are doing it, and then after you finish 50,000, so this is horrible. Oh, I don't want to do it, you know. I promise to him or her, but I don't really like it. I cannot do it. But you're still doing it until you finish 300,000. Now it's not your genuine practice anymore. You're just trying to make somebody else, or you just, you know, you promise it, but it's not being genuine practice anymore. Because in order to be your genuine practice, always have to have a joy, you know, joy, enthusiasm. Even if we do a little short prayer, you should have the joy of doing it. So that's why the tundu, diligent, the essence of diligent here is the joy. So gela troa. If there's no troa, troa means joy. If there's no troa, it's no gewa. Gewa means virtue. It says if there's no troa, no gewa. Okay, means if there's no joy, it's no virtue. Even if you have a lot of diligence. So that's something that we have to keep in our mind, because you spend so much time and energy, and then at the end there's no joy of doing it. Then you realize that you waste your time, and then there's regret, you know, all those. But if you know at the beginning, you do until your joy ends, and then you can stop, and until you have joy again, and then you can continue it, right? Okay, the next one is concentration. It's something Jiparo Vichimba. Perfection of concentration. So it says, even if you have a practice well on generosity, discipline, patience, diligent, if there's no samadhi or concentration or meditation, your practice will not be the genuine practice for the path of enlightenment. Because the concentration is concentration, or is it's antidote to, what do you call it, yingwa. Unaware, you know, unawareness.
Ignorance.
What is the opposite of awareness?
Ignorance.
Dullness,
Mindful, opposite of mindfulness.
Distracted.
Unaware, yeah. Because, you know, if you don't have awareness, means your mind is carried by something else. Okay? If you won't be able to concentrate on whatever you are doing, if you basically means if you cannot focus, the concentration is a focus, right? if you are out of focus, then even if you have a practice well on generosity and discipline, it can be polluted. It can be, impure, because negative thoughts and negative ideas can carry those away. So therefore we have to have a awareness on our physical body, our mind, and our speech, and everything that we do, every movement or every activity that is happening with our life, we have to aware. And then, of course, the ultimate point of view, without awareness, there's no meditation, right? So meditation is all about awareness and mindfulness. So that's why the shamatha meditation that we do, if you don't have awareness and mindfulness, we cannot do shamatha meditation at all, because we cannot focus. So, in this, the perfectional wisdom perfectional concentration have many things to aware, many things to concentrate on. Shamatha meditation is, of course, one of the practices. The shamatha meditation is actually not one of them, but it's all about concentration is the shamatha, because the foundation of the meditation is the shamatha. The shamatha is the method that makes your mind that will focus, concentrate, mindful, aware. It's like train, right? And the beginner training is the shamatha meditation. So when we concentrate, and of course we also, this concentration be antidote for our three negative poisons. So when we have a more desire or attachment, we meditate on ugliness. Is that a right word? Ugliness? Like if you're, let's say if you have so much desire to a particular object or particular person, so we concentrate on that particular object, thinking about how bad it is, how horrible, how ugly, if you attach it to a person, individual person, and then you have to contemplate on all this, dirty part, poops and and the blood and all this, in order to reduce attachment to whatever you're attached to. not. It says if you're attached to somebody, you have to think about the rotten meat, flesh and blood, and pus and urines and poops and all those, and then what do you call this thing that comes in out from your nose?
Snot.
And then you have to think about like when dead body is on cemetery, how ugly, how smelly, and it's a method of reducing our attachment. It doesn't mean that you have to think everybody like that way. Then if you have if you feel you have more anger or more hatred, and then you concentrate on compassion and loving kindness, contemplate mindful compassion and loving kindness in order to reduce our anger and hatred. And then if you have more ignorance, and then we have to focus and meditate on interdependent. Interdependent is the emptiness. Everything that exists, it's all interdependent. So this is the Buddhist view. Buddhist view is emptiness, and emptiness is interdependent. And everything that exists, it's interdependent. So the whole samsara, it arises interdependently, and the whole samsara ceases interdependently, and also the nirvana arises interdependently, because the whole samsara, it's arise and exist with 12 link of interdependent, right? So everything is starting from the ignorance. When you have ignorance, and that ignorance produce duje, what do you say, duje? I think it's more like, action, and then that produce the consciousness, and then name and form, and then slowly our aggregates, and then life begins, and then again death comes. So these 12 link of have you read 12 link of interdependent teachings? Yeah, and if you look at this, it has much more details. And then basically the both samsara and nirvana are exist or arises with the twofold interdependent. Samsara start from the ignorance, and then all those, and then when it reversed or it goes counterclockwise, and then it becomes nirvana, So basically these are something that we have to contemplate on and meditate. So it's the concentration. Then of course shamatha meditation, vipassana meditation, those all are part of the concentration. But then of course, in order to be perfectional concentration, we have to understand it has to be based on non-conceptual, base understanding that everything is not existed, and every phenomena that appearing are like an illusion, like a dream, and all those things that we always say. So next one is perfectional wisdom. The Parajina Paramita is the sixth of the paramitas, six paramitas. So it says a practitioner who have a practice on generosity, discipline, patient, diligent, concentration, but if you have no wisdom, if you don't have a professional wisdom, those would not be the proper path of enlightenment. So in order to be path of enlightenment, we have to have the professional wisdom. So in Shanti Deva, his beginning of wisdom chapter, he says, all those other paramitas that I have been talking, from generosity till concentration, it's all for the wisdom. He says, so those other paramitas are just a method. When we talk about the method and wisdom, so those five of them are method, and then the last one, perfectional wisdom, is the actual wisdom. So it says, once you have the wisdom, if you are lack of wisdom, even though you have these six paramitas, it says, Gampopa says, it's like hundreds of blind people are stuck there not knowing how to get to their destination. So then once you practice, once you have the wisdom, and then wisdom is the guide who take all those hundreds and millions of blind people. One person with eye can take millions of people to a destination. So wisdom is like that. It's a guide. Lungti ji lungu chodron je de tibatara jimbala so ge chodron je sanji je lam de journey tamji je ko ba to de uma ji wala je da lungu chogen de la do di kiwi ki de boy yo de tibati je shiro je ma ge de ma de che ti shi no so ko do ba do. And then it says, then if the wisdom is that important, why do we need to practice all the other paramitas, from generosity and concentration? And it says they are the method, because those are the method we needed. The method and wisdom have to be together in order to be a complete package. These both have to be there. If one is missing, then it's not path. So then it says, what is that wisdom that you are talking about? Seems so important. Says wisdom is actually the wisdom that's the eye that sees everything, every phenomena, a reality of a phenomena that are emptiness, that are interdependent. So you have to have wisdom to see this. Without having the eye of wisdom, we cannot realize emptiness. And then wisdom have three different levels: the ordinary wisdom, and beyond ordinary wisdom, and great beyond ordinary wisdom, and beyond ordinary lesser wisdom, and then beyond ordinary greater wisdom. So there are three things. So when we talk about the ordinary wisdom, of course, the wisdom about the, in Buddhism, we have a, what do you call those, jipune, knowledge, there are 5 different knowledges. The ordinary ones are, these logics and medicine, other one is called what? It's called astrology, But there are 5 of them. These wisdom to know those, the 5 is the ordinary wisdom. Soaripa is the medicine. Tenziripa is the logic, like debating. And those in monasteries we have a lot of debate between the monks to determine the true meaning of the teaching. So in order to do that, they have certain rules, When somebody asks you a question, and you only have to say there's only 4 words. You can say only 4 of them. You cannot say, no, it's not like this because this and that. You cannot just go on. When you say phenomena exist, and then either you have to say yes or no, or not sure, so then it will give you time to explain. But anyways, so there's we call it tema. So there's a system, a system of how to debate and so on. Tenzirupa. And then the third one is more like a Sanskrit, the Sanskrit language, the translation leading from Sanskrit to Tibetan, we call it Daripa. I guess that can be in any language. And then Zoripa means, I think Zoripa is more like art, You're making different things, writing, painting, building different things. So basically these are the ordinary wisdom. So then the 2 beyond ordinary wisdoms are the wisdoms that arises based on Dharma practice. So the first one is the wisdom that our hearts and those lower vehicles of Buddhism. We have like 3, the greater vehicle and lesser vehicle. This lesser vehicle have 2 different Shavaka tradition, and I think it's another one. It's called self-liberation or Patimokkha, something in Sanskrit. Anyways, so the wisdoms from these lesser traditions are the first one, and then the wisdom of Mahayana is the greater one. So the greater Mahayana, the wisdom of beyond ordinary, that is greater, is the Mahayana wisdom. So that is the wisdom. We have when you talk about the Buddha's wisdom, there's 5 different wisdoms. Buddha appears as 5 Buddha families with the different wisdoms. 5 different wisdoms. But basically talking about the ultimate wisdom that sees or understand or recognize the true nature of a phenomena, true nature of a reality. It's the emptiness. So at the end, the greater wisdom is the wisdom to see the nature of a reality. Then we have here lots of explanation on each of these wisdoms, but I am not going to go through everything since we are trying to finish this today, and as I am trying to go through the important aspect, although everything here is very important, but so basically that is the 6 perfections. 6 perfections: generosity, perfections of discipline, perfections of patience, perfection of effort, concentration, and wisdom. This is we call 6 perfection. So these practices are the main practice, key practice of Mahayana, and also Vajrayana, of course. The Vajrayana is part of Mahayana practice. So whenever we do a visualization or recitation, the mantra, and always has to do based on those 6 perfections. Like when we do the 2 stages of visualization, the generation stage involves the generosity to the concentration, and then last stage, dissolution stage. It's the part of the wisdom, perfectional wisdom. So even Vajrayana practices require these 2 aspects of method and wisdom. So, you know, the wisdom, and basically then it explained how all these phenomena are not exist, how they are interdependent. You know, so they're talking about emptiness, how things are not exist. It's saying that things are not exist, just like a rainbow, just like reflections, mirages, a dream, you know. So until we realize this emptiness, we can still have intellectual assumptions, understanding, but the realization of emptiness is completely different. Knowing is one thing and realizing is another thing. And we can learn so many things. We use different methods, different quotations from all those great masters. But in order to realize, not only learning will realize it, but we have to practice it, right? So once we practice, when we have enough practice, then we'll realize that's That's the real understanding of a realization. So next one, it will talk about the paths and the bhumis. The paths and bhumis, it's also the part of this fourth chapter, the teaching of the master of fourth chapter of this jewel ornament of liberation. So the first one is path. We talk lots about impermanent. We talk lots about the bodhicitta. And we talk a lot about the six perfections, are the actual practices that we do. And then next, in the paths and the bhumis, it'll tell you what are your achievement from now until reach enlightenment. What are the steps that we have to go through by the practice that we have discussed. So there are 5 paths, 10 bhumis. Choklam, Jorlam, Thunglam, Gomlam, Loblam. So there are 5 paths. Are you familiar with the 5 paths? Choklam is a path of accumulation. Jorlam is a path of engagement. Thunglam is a path of seeing. Gomlam is a path of meditation. And Midloblam is a path of no more learn. Huh?
Fulfillment?
Which one?
Fulfillment?
No more learning.
No more learning. Yeah. The last one is no more learning.
Is before the bhumis?
No, it's not before the bhumi. The bhumis and paths are, like this. So what happened is the first bhumi, first path, cholam, is those who are the beginner practitioners. We practice bodhicitta, inspiration bodhicitta, development bodhicitta. We accumulate merit, we purify our obscurations. So during these, we are in a path of accumulation, accumulating merit. So the next one is Jorlam. So after path of accumulation, then there are, certain realization. There are 4 levels. So once these 4 levels of realization arises, you are in the Jorlam, the path of engagement. So, and then the next part is the Thunglam. Thunglam means the seeing. During the seeing, what you see is you see emptiness. And here emptiness is not only intellectually, know how is emptiness, but you realize through your experience, you realize emptiness. So that's the first bhumi. First bhumi and the fourth path are at the same time. When you realize emptiness through your experience, it's called the path of seeing. Simultaneously, you achieve the first bhumi, the bhumi of joy, bhumi of great joy. But then, yes, salam temba. So during the Jolam, there are many levels of practice, many levels of the mindful concentration practices. Jemba Nyawar Japa Ye is four. Have you heard about four mindfulness? Mindfulness of your body, mindfulness of your mind, mindfulness of your feeling, and all those. No. Yang Gampopa Ye. It's a four pure meditation, four pure. How do you say that? Yang Gampopa. Pure encouragement, four pure encouragement. And four magical legs. And then something, samadhis, different levels of samadhis. So those are all practices in Jolam. So now there's a 10 bhumis. 10 bhumis are also when you become part of seeing, you achieve the first bhumi. So then, from the first bhumi to the seventh bhumi, you are on path of meditation. So, and sentient beings have two different obscurations that we common two different obscurations. Obscuration of emotion and wisdom. Okay? So, from until seventh bhumi, the last stage of the seventh bhumi, at removing the emotion, obscuration of emotion. But the very last stages of the 10th bhumi, your obscurations of emotion completely disappeared. So last three bhumis, 8th, 9th, 10th, have no obscuration of emotion. But the beginning of 7th, 8th bhumi, you begin to purify obscuration of wisdom. During those three bhumis, you purify obscuration of wisdom, and the very last or 10th bhumi, you completely abandon both obscurations, obscuration of emotion and no obscuration of wisdom. So that's the time you achieve enlightenment. So, when we think about the Lord Buddha, Shakyamuni, he was meditating in 6 years in near the Bodh Gaya, right? So then, and one night, he came to Bodh Gaya where he achieved enlightenment. And the next morning, he achieved enlightenment. It's called When sun rises, at the same time he achieved enlightenment. That is the moment that he completely abandoned the very subtle trace of obscuration of his wisdom, and then he, achieved enlightenment, become Buddha. But in Vajrayana tradition, sometimes we have 13 bhumis. But the 10th bhumi, first to 10, is a very common one in our Buddhist traditions. So basically here, and pathas and bhumis, and then before we talk about the I would think there are three main sections. Like first, when we talk about the Buddha nature, human life, and a master, and those are more like what do you call it? Conditions for our practice. The conditions, necessary conditions that require for enlightenment. Okay, and then from the what do you call it? From the impermanent till the wisdom is actual practice. Actual practices that we need to practice. And then within the 5 bhumis and 10 path are sort of our path. We first provide all these conditions, and then we start work, starting from impermanent till practice and wisdom is our activity, our action. And those bhumis are the path that where we are going. Like every time you do something and you get somewhere. You understand? No? Anyways, there are 3 main parts. Conditions, and then actions, and achievement. Are 3 levels. So now, once you finish these bhumis and paths, now you're in Buddha. You're Buddha. So this is actually our fifth chapter is Buddha. Zopo Sanje. So Buddha, mainly Buddha has 3 qualities, right? We call it Chin Tse Nusun. Chin means knowledge. Tse means compassion. Nu means power. So he has these 3 qualities. Chin is talking about his wisdom. Whatever he sees, whatever he knows. What did he know? He knows everything. Relative truth, ultimate truth. Means he accomplished everything that he need to learn. That is achievement from his own side. Education, realization. He achieved all those. And then Tse, it's limitless compassion. It's coming from other sentient beings because of his, compassion, loving kindness, and bodhicitta to all sentient beings. He achieved the highest level of the bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, the great bodhicitta, means compassion. And then because of this realization from his own, a realization that comes from others, achievement, and he has limitless power to benefit sentient beings. So these are the main quality. And if you say, what does it Buddha means? Buddha in Sanskrit we mean Sang, in Tibetan they translate Sang Je. Sang Nimon Danamali. Nimon Danamali Jamata. Okay, Sang means removed. Je means accomplished. Okay, these two words. So what he removed, every negativities, every false, mistaking, anything that is a negative, he removed from his physically, mentally, everything. And J means accomplished. He accomplished everything that is, how do you say? Everything that is required, he accomplished quality, every quality. Sang and J, remove and achieve. So this is short explanation of Buddha. And of course then when we talk about the Buddha appears in three forms. Buddha Dharmakaya, which is actually ultimate Buddha, which we all have it. The essence of Buddha, the Dharmakaya, we all have it. As we talked in the beginning, when we talk about the Buddha nature. So we already have that Buddha nature. We all have it. But our Buddha nature is not matured yet. It's obscured by all these negative emotions. Once we developed our potential, remove our negativities, our true nature will shine, So we don't have to search that nature from anywhere. We already have it.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
How do you know that?
Huh?
How do you know that we all have Buddha nature?
How do I know?
Yeah, for example, we were just talking about sixth perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It is an aspiration,
Mm-hmm.
patience, concentration. How do we know that Buddha nature is not just an aspiration? How do we know I already have it and I'm going to uncover it? How do we know that it is, how can I prove that I have a Buddha nature? Because I don't think I'll.
You don't think you have it, Buddha nature?
Yeah, I mean, the evidence says no.
Okay.
So how do I know that it is not an aspiration, that some of us will achieve it, but some won't achieve it? Just like the sixth perfection.
Okay, so knowing has different levels, okay? Buddha's knowledge, Bodhisattva's knowledge, scholars' knowledge, and our knowledge, all different knowledge is there. Based on those knowledge, they prove things in that level. Okay? So, in terms of Buddha nature, okay, Lord Buddha, when we look in his teachings, what he said, I have it, you all have it, I have it, I discovered already. So I know that everybody have it, you all have it. So that's one thing. And those who don't achieve Buddha and Bodhisattvas says, I have a Buddha nature. Buddha said it, and based on I practice it. So now I achieve Bodhisattva, if I more practice, I have so confident that I will achieve because Buddha achieved it and he said it, and I have practiced so much and I'm already this far. Okay? So then there are great masters. Buddha said it, everybody have it, and he practiced it, he achieved enlightenment. Bodhisattvas said it, they practice it, they're already up there. I haven't practiced it, and I'm already great practitioner, you know, that I have at the beginning, I was full of anger, attachment, jealousy, ignorance, all those. Because of all those practice that I have done in the past, now I have much less anger, much less jealousy, much less hatred. I am pretty sure that I have a Buddha nature. If I continue it, I'm guaranteed that I will be Bodhisattva, and one day, another day I will be in Buddha. So then we as an ordinary being, okay, we don't know Buddha nature. We haven't realized it. We have heard so many times, somehow we believe it. So then we practice, we've been practicing. But every time you practice, your compassion increases. That shows that there are something, if you do something, there are some development. And if you practice all those perfections, 6 perfections, somehow it is reducing my anger, my attachment, my jealousy. I think there are some progress, something is happening. So therefore I can see something is there that going to give the full realization. So therefore I haven't really seen yet the true real Buddha nature, but I am 100% sure if I practice it.
But to me, Buddha nature means limitless patience.
Yes.
Limitless
Yeah,
compassion.
our potential has no limit.
Yeah, but so potential has no limit.
Mm-hmm.
I can be a little bit patient, little bit compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine a day when I will be limitless.
Well, might takes a long time, because Buddha said, we equally, all sentient beings have the Buddha nature. I developed that Buddha nature, I'm enlightened. I'm fully awake. But do you have a Buddha nature? Yes. But will you be achieve enlightenment just like me? Depends on you. I cannot pick you up from samsara and drop you in nirvana, but I have taught 84,000 teachings left behind that you can learn how to develop your nature. But whether you will be there or not is completely up to you.
Maybe he was special person. Maybe I'm not so special. I am just ordinary.
Well, that's what, when we're talking about these 3 different laziness, you know. Oh, I want. So that kind of laziness is the biggest obstacle.
But could not also be a little bit gullible? If he can do it, I can do it.
No, because he said it, and I have done it, you can do it. But he says, don't lose your hope, you know. You all have it. He have said that. Not only Buddha Shakyamuni, so many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas already said it and repeatedly, you know.
Okay.
And we see some progress in practitioners.
I like to think that's true, but I am a little bit skeptical. I mean, I would love to be enlightened.
You know, it's even if you don't think that you will be achieving enlightenment, it's okay. But think that my potential is something that can develop, make me better and a happier person, more beneficial for other people, you know. So if you see that potential, then whether you believe that you will be golden Buddha or not is nothing to do with us. So we,
Slowly.
yeah. Well, it takes a time for sure. And in some teachings it says Buddha Shakyamuni spent his three countless eons to achieve enlightenment. So,
Okay, thank you.
We see examples in real life of people achieving enlightenment. We see Lama Tenzin who practiced and practiced and practiced, and then,
But I don't know that.
Well, the rainbows and
well,
trees up.
that's the problem. If you don't see it, you don't believe. That's the biggest problem. But if you look in history, do you believe history? Things that happened. Do you believe there was a true World War II, World War I, and Hitler's and all these people came? We didn't see it. Nobody would see it. Did you see that? Do you believe that India was under British? Do you see this? Maybe that's too close. But there are things that we completely believe that we haven't seen. If you don't see something, it doesn't mean there was.
No, but it's
When we look at the Milarepa, when we look at all those great masters' story, they are enlightened beings. Chinreze,
yeah, no,
Manjushri.
they are, but maybe they're special. Like His Holiness has said, what is the proof? Don't believe it because I say it so.
That's what Buddha said.
Yeah.
But Buddha didn't say, don't believe. What Buddha said is, for my teachings, it's not, what he said was, I taught you so many things. Now it's your time that you have to analyze and see if these teachings make sense. If it does, practice. If don't make sense, then don't bother, So he says, because somebody called Buddha taught it, or Princess Siddhartha, you shouldn't just accept and practice. So that means it's being practical. He was just giving us the full rights to make our own decision. And he doesn't want anybody to fall into blind faith, and
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So now there is 3 kayas. The Buddha Dharma kaya is the ultimate essence of everything, an ultimate essence of all the enlightened beings, as well as every sentient being too. But then there's a Nirmana kaya and Sambhoga kaya. Buddha appears in the 3 kayas. So as we say, we don't see Dharmakaya, we cannot receive, teachings from Dharmakaya. So those who can receive teachings from Dharmakaya is those who realize the emptiness, reality. So Naropa was one of the great Indian master who actually is our, Mahamudra lineage's head. Marpa Lota's master was Naropa, Naropa's master was Tilopa, and Tilopa's master was Vajradhara. There was never Vajradhara Buddha who achieved enlightenment. The Vajradhara, it's a symbol for Buddha Dharmakaya. So Tilopa says, I, Tilo, have no human guru, human teacher, but the Vajradhara, the Dharmakaya, is my guru. So only certain people can receive teachings from Dharmakaya. So therefore, there's 2 other kayas, form kayas. The Sambhoga kaya, who gave teachings in the Pure Land and different, Sukavatis and so on. And then Nirmana kaya, who come in this world, like Buddha Shakyamuni, who came and left teachings, taught teachings for us. So then, of course, the Buddha have, when we talk about the realization, there's a wisdom. We describe two wisdoms, Chitawa Chimbe Ishi and Chinyeba Chimbe Ishi. Two wisdoms. So then there are a few different examples of how Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, how Buddhas benefit, give teachings. So actually, next one is the activity of the Buddha. So it says, Buddha's activity, the benefit sentient beings without conception. What does conception mean?
Birth.
Huh?
It's more like birth.
Like concept, like
Without thinking, basically, you know.
yeah, without concept.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
conception
guess
is
conception is
different. Yeah.
So Buddha's teaching, Buddha's manifestation, Buddha's blessing is always there. So there is 7 different examples that he put. Jarji, Nga, Tin, Tsangpa, Nima, Nobelichin. You know, Jazin means is the king. Lawang Jarzi, okay? The king of the god. Lawang Jarzi, king of the god. So when these king sit on the palace, you know, he sit on the palace. Through his palace, all his, beautiful, elegant, or whatever you call, through his palace's projection, everybody around sees him, you know. Then whoever sees him, oh, may I become like him, you know. So great, you know. Outrageous, but doesn't matter. Whoever goes around there will see it, you know. It's not like only ministers can see it or only those people can. No, everybody can see it. So Buddha's manifestation is like that. It's everywhere. There's no discrimination. Okay? Judging. Then the second example is the sound of the drum, you know. When drum bangs, everybody will hear it. Whoever have ear will hear it. The drum does not have intention of, oh, this is only for these people, you know, not for those. There's no conception, but whoever there will hear it. So the third one is a cloud, When cloud comes in the sky, and everybody on the ground will see it. But those who have an eye problem cannot see it. But Buddha does not have an intention of not letting this, the cloud does not have an intention of those blind people, not seeing by blind people. So what it actually means is that the Buddha's manifestation activity pervades everybody, but then it's up to individuals who will really get it. When sun shines in the sky, whoever goes in the sun, you will get the sun rays, But if you keep staying in the inside, still complaining there's no sun, then it's your problem, your fault. You have to go there together. The sun is up there, no discrimination. So basically Buddha's manifestation is like that, It's a limitless, out of limitless compassion. His compassion has no limit. So therefore it includes every sentient beings. The next example is like a sun, like sun. At the same time, without discrimination, sun rays. And whoever under the sun will get it. But if there is, we have seen this cave that facing to north will never get a sun ray, Because the sun rises in east and set in the west. So the north, facing north, will never get it. So those who have, those who doesn't have the, motivation or intention or interest, they will never get it. So like, moon, and then when the moon comes in the sky, wherever there is a clear water, they will have a reflection. But if the water is mud, dirty water, we cannot have the reflection. Same like if our mind is dirty, we have no devotion, no interest, then it doesn't matter Buddha's manifestation, how powerful, the teachings are how clear, still we never get it. It's like if you upside down your bowl and pouring water on it, it doesn't go inside, So somehow the jewel ornament of liberation is completed. And I have listened this teaching from Sanjay Nyamba Rinpoche for 1 month in India when Siddha Rinpoche was giving Mahamudra teaching. Every day he talked 1 hour, every morning 1 hour. So then we go back home and we, contemplate again and again. But I did it in 4 sections. But it's not easy, But I try to, bring up important aspects. Although there's nothing that is not important in this jewel ornament of liberation. If there is something that is unimportant, the Gampopa wouldn't write it. He wouldn't waste his time. Everything is important. But again, it's not easy to talk about everything, you know. So I just left all the difficulty part and the pick up easy ones. And, you know, try to talk based on the main chapters. You know, this one is the good thing is, although the teaching is very long, but every section has its own root verse, you know, root text. That when you look in the root text, almost like you understand the whole thing, you know. But then, of course, if you wanted to really go detail, then all these explanations, they're also very clear. But anyway, thank you very much for all of you to coming here and listening to, you know, my blah blah.
And on behalf of everyone here, I think I can thank you, Lama Tenzin. That was wonderful. We are so lucky to have a teacher that will speak to us in English. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you will do another series again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank you. Thank you.